Urgent Home Studio Reaction. This is Presidential Pets, a brief history by the channel Sam Monella. What? Sam's back. Yeah, another Sam video. This is about, I'm guessing, because of like constant Joe Biden dog shit that is constantly on the news. How Joe Biden's dog bit him and that. I guess Sam just heard of that news. Like, wait a minute, I can make video on this, and there we go. Yeah, when did he make the last video? I guess it was a year ago. Right? Yeah. It's better than the 4-year gap that he had after like what was that, like that USDD Porter or something, right? That was the last video. Then he made another one like from there. This like third or fourth video he made after the big break. Yeah, I hope he doesn't take more big breaks because some things Sam does nobody else can do. Obviously, another channels like this have popped up since then, right? Recently, I've been watching like Good Ones or whatever. I forgot the channel's name, but yeah, it's also becoming really popular. But nobody's like Sam. He's the original, and yeah, let's watch on. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more, and that way you can help the channel by helping the algorithm and things. And yeah, comment down if you want to do any specific video. If you haven't seen my other Sam reactions, I did quite a few of them. If not all of them, I don't even remember anymore. The link in the description or in the end of the end card, there will be a playlist of it or something. Yeah, let's watch it.
Hey adults, so most of us are aware of at least one animal.
Wait, what the fuck?
Most of us are aware of. Hey adults.
Review of you upon the. Oh my god, his channel got strike down by YouTube.
So most of us are aware of at least one animal companion to the commander-in-chief. All but 3 presidents have owned some kind of pet during their term, and there's good reason for that. Not only does a lovable mutt serve to humanize an otherwise larger-than-life figure, but their cute antics can also be a great distraction when needed. Huh? Drone strikes? Never heard of her. Hey, we're doing a photo op with this dog that shares a name with my vice president's son, cause that's not weird at all. But as it turns out, dogs and cats are just the tip of the iceberg. There have been a lot of
when you hear about all that
quadrupedal occupants of the White House,
that's a
even
lot,
without
man.
Ms. Lewinsky. So today we'll be going
when you hear about that, like what are we humans? What are American or people are not gullible? What you talking about? But it's not about being gullible, right? Whenever somebody goes to election, they have to have a wife, they have to have a kids. Apparently, they have to have like dogs as well to seem appealing. You think like, okay, but that's like if they're using that as a thing to just get over. When people caught onto that, people do caught onto that, but that's not the point. It's like if you are like willing to put that kind of an effort into just even pretending at that point, which means what American people wants. So that's what sometimes feels like, okay, what are people stupid? You're gonna do this and they're gonna be gullible. It's not about being gullible. So all these things have been like, for years, like what is like your perfect family? What is that? A president has to have that type of thing.
through just a few of the more interesting ones. Going back to the beginning, Washington had critters galore, including 4 black and tan slur hounds that he named Drunkard, Taster, Tippler, and Tipsy. They sound like if Santa's reindeer were all alcoholics, which would be a shame because Rudolph's red nose would no longer be of note. John Adams had 3 dogs that presumably spanned the alignment chart, being named Juno, Mark, and Satan respectively. Not a joke. Jefferson kept around 40 sheep during his presidency, one of which was a 4-horned Shetland ram. Though nameless, said ram soon became famous for killing a young boy on White House grounds. Rather than immediately destroying the animal as we'd expect today, Jefferson just had it moved back to Monticello. It was eventually put down, but only after it single-handedly killed several other rams at the estate, which just goes to show how Jefferson operated. Random child, not the best optics, but that can be forgiven. But my own property, that's a bridge too far, Rambo. John Quincy Adams' wife.
Oh, that's so fucked up, right? I mean, obviously back then, like, news only travels as far as like newspaper can print it. Nowadays, like everything's recorded. So nowadays, like PR thing is much stronger. The pressure is much higher. Back then, they can just abuse their power. Like, I'm a president. You're not putting down my pet. Just send him somewhere else. Nowadays, if that happens, like, oh my God, President Biden is doing that, and that's it. Like, nobody can put that kind of like, nobody abuse power like that.
Louisa practiced sericulture, which is a fun word for silkworm keeping. As a side note, sericulture has been going on since at least 3630 BC, which is kinda nutty, because that means we domesticated worms to turn their goo into clothes before we figured out how to ride a horse. Jackson had an African gray parrot named Poll, short for Polly, that would apparently curse like a sailor, probably thanks to the teachings of Old Hickory himself. Having outlived its owner, Poll ended up being removed from Jackson's funeral service after unleashing so much profanity that guests found it genuinely upsetting. He also kept roosters for cockfighting, which was acceptable at the time and still far from the worst thing he's done morally. During Van Buren,
yeah, obviously parrot, like, which means parrot was surrounded by people who said profanity all the time. So that's what happened. That's what was going on during that time in White House.
term, the Sultan of Oman sent a variety of gifts to the president, among them being a pair of tiger cubs. He was like, "This is badass," and desperately wanted to keep them in the White House. But the dickheads in Congress asserted that, due to a specific constitutional provision, gifts to the presidential office weren't for the man himself, but for the people. Van Buren said, "Fuck the people, them's my tigers," and got into a legal battle with the legislator over the issue, which he eventually lost. The tigers were subsequently sent to a zoo, and over 20 years later, Van Buren died of pneumonia, completely unrelated to this incident. Although Andrew Johnson had no de jour pets, he did befriend a family of mice he found in his bedroom, feeding them flour and grain and referring to them as the little fellows. It's an oddly wholesome thing to hear from someone who essentially set the trajectory for the next 100 years of black disenfranchisement. Mr. Johnson, we still have a country to rebuild.
What the fuck? The tiger thing, I mean, kind of makes sense, right? Setting up a precedent is like really strong thing, especially in America. If any, so yeah, somebody's sending gifts to president. If they let that go, that sets the precedent. And going forward, that will be the thing. Like people sending gifts to president, they'll just take it, and yeah, that could, that could shift how president makes decision, at least theoretically. But no way in hell that was going to happen. So yeah, they took out the tigers.
Get out of my room, I'm getting rat-pilled. Taft had 2 cows during his term. The first of them was named Mooly Wooly, and she died a year and a half in after, quote, eating too many oats. Mooly was promptly replaced by the far more dignified Pauline Wayne. She was a real dime of a heifer, which led Taft to show her off at the International Dairymen's Expo in Milwaukee. In order to get her there, she was transported in a private car attached to a train headed for the stockyards in Chicago. But a switch crew mixed up which car was hers, leading to 2 days of frantic telegraphs asking where the president's cow had gone. She only narrowly avoided the slaughterhouse when a couple of attendants at the stockyard recognized Pauline for what she was, and all was well. This next one requires a little background info.
Okay, how did they recognize which heifer or cow is from the president or something? Was there like a sign or something, like she was tagged or something? Oh, that's some insane shit. Imagine that, like, imagine a guy who basically slaughters like president's cow. Yeah, at that, I mean, obviously it's America, but then again, right? President might know somebody who might know somebody. Like, yeah, that's a scary thing.
So the traditional Thanksgiving dinner was and remains a significant yearly ceremony for the first family. For half a century, from 1873 to 1913, the duty of providing the presidential turkey belonged to one Horace Vose, a private turkey farmer based in Rhode Island. After his death, though, things turned into a free-for-all, with numerous farmers sending unsolicited turkeys, both alive and dead, in an attempt to secure a position as the next annual caterer for the White House. Nobody was decided on for a decade, and upon assuming office in 1923, Calvin Coolidge found the volume of birds showing up at his doorstep alarming, and put an end to the tradition that year, instead opting to buy his own turkey. But in 1925, after much outside pressure, he caved, and was immediately flooded with not only turkey, but a variety of increasingly exotic animals to eat. Among them was a live raccoon he received the following year. Coolidge was, at the time, blissfully unaware of the intricate dance performed on the palate between forward yet ephemeral gaminess and heady seductive musk when one submits himself to the experience of a toothsome raccoon fillet, and as such he decided to keep it as a pet instead. Dubbed Rebecca
What the fuck? I need to hear this one again.
following year, Coolidge was, at the time, blissfully unaware of the intricate dance performed on the palate between forward yet ephemeral gaminess and heady seductive musk when one submits himself to the experience of a toothsome raccoon fillet, and as such he decided to keep it as a pet instead. Dubbed
Man,
Rebecca,
Samus
the
is the
creature
best.
soon came to be a core member of the Coolidge family. She ate as well as any of them, being fed things like shrimp and persimmons, and she was particularly fond of eggs. Given free reign over the
I don't know. So do you want to eat a raccoon? Like, what the fuck did you say? Yeah, raccoon. Somebody sent a raccoon to eat. I mean, should we cook it? Like, what the fuck?
house, Rebecca's hobbies reportedly included unscrewing light bulbs, uprooting houseplants, and playing with wet bars of soap in the bathtub. She was so beloved that she even had her own treehouse built for her in the White House yard. When the Coolidges made way for the Hoovers, Rebecca was forced to vacate her post, but the new first family soon found that they had a squatter on their hands. The new tenant of Rebecca's treehouse was a wild opossum who, rather than being evicted, was adopted by the Hoovers in a similar fashion to Rebecca,
yeah.
albeit from a farther distance, mostly just saying, yeah, that's ours now. He was given the name Billy Possum, which is a reference to our old
All of that. Is that even a pet at that point? I mean, I guess they feed it, like they told the staff, like feed it or something. I don't know. If you don't interact with it, yeah, that's our pet. I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's a pet. Don't you have to pet it in order to have it as a pet. I don't know.
Friend Taft. See, as the man following Teddy Roosevelt in the White House, Taft had some big shoes to fill. So during his term, some enterprising young dumbasses approached Taft with what they claimed would be the sequel to the teddy bear. They called it Billy Possum, which is itself a reference to the president's fondness of possum and taters, a dish he famously requested at a banquet in Atlanta as an act of goodwill towards the South and its culture. Taft found the idea amusing enough that he gave the green light, and many thousands of Billy Possums were produced. Given their total obscurity today, it's clear these toys were a massive flop, and there's a few reasons for that. For one, trying to force fads at all is like trying to push water uphill, but also, the story of Roosevelt refusing to shoot a tied-up bear has a bit more symbolic poetry to it than "it's a possum cause he like possum, he a fat boy, eat him up good." Couple that with the constant character assassination.
Imagine that, right? Him thinking like, oh, there is like deepness to this. Everybody's like, oh, look, he like possum. There you go. That's all there's to it. He like possum.
That the opossum as an animal has received from ignorant urbanites, and it becomes obvious that this thing was doomed from the start. But anyway, that's where the Hoover opossum got his name, and his exploits were pretty limited outside of temporarily filling in as a mascot of a local high school. In 1961, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev gifted a dog to the Kennedys, named Pushinka, or Fluffy. And while it is normally rude to look a gift dog in the mouth, an exception can be made when the single biggest threat to the free world insists that said dog should live with the president. Pushinka was
Exactly. During the Cold War, Khrushchev goes to like JFK and is like, here's a dog. Is it rabid? Does it have like what disease does it have? Does it have chemical weapons in there? What if they're like some genetically created some kind of a virus that is inside the dog, and now it's gonna affect everybody but won't show up for a month, like how COVID doesn't show up for 2 weeks. I mean, this is Cold War, right? Paranoia is whole another level. Paranoia is the norm around this time. No way he would have been like, oh, look at the dog, I'll keep it.
X-rayed, put through metal detectors, and given ultrasounds out of fear that someone implanted her with a listening device. Fortunately, though there may be bugs in some of you mugs, there ain't no bugs in she, and Pushinka remained a Kennedy for the rest of her days, while truthfully, the gift was likely given as a simple act of good faith designed to reduce Cold War tensions. Pushinka was also the daughter of Strelka, who, during Sputnik 5, became the first mammal to make it back from space alive. So I'd like to think of it as more of a passive-aggressive space race flex. Like, yeah, our astronanimals are so alive, they're making babies even. Hope looking at this one constantly reminds you of where you stand. With that, I hope you found
this is around this time, US didn't even have a rocket that could survive in space, let alone go all the way to the moon around this time, right? Obviously that would change in a few years, but that was the happening around this time, and they just like, oh, look at this dog, it's just a gift. Nothing more. By the way, it's the same. It's a kid of the dog that survived back from the fucking space flight that we did. There you go. That was definitely a flex.
Highlight reel enlightening. It feels good to know that while Congress has always been a zoo, so too has the White House at times. That's all for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and you make my girl.
Yeah. There you go. Presidential pets. He just thought of this one day and just make the fucking video. Yeah, it was a surprise. Some of them were really like, okay. I like how they just like, made this like a tree house and somebody just like moved it like, might as well. There you go. That's our pet from now on. Because everybody just telling you, what are you, heartless punk? You don't have a pet? There you go. That's our pet. There you go. That's what happened there. This is JFK when he saw some. Around that time, like, okay, first of all, it's really sad about JFK. He was like only in office, 2.5 years. So that makes that like really fucked up. But at the same time, like, just imagine the whole panic scenario. JFK receiving this kind of like dog. Is it a listening device? What it is? I'm surprised they didn't do the blood test. Or was that even a thing back then? I don't even know. Yeah, it was like, yeah, I'm surprised they didn't do the blood test. I mean, they wouldn't dare do that, right? Like send a fucking, biological chemical bomb through a dog to the president. They wouldn't do that. Not directly through like Khrushchev or something. That would be insane. So maybe that's why they didn't check it. But yeah. Just imagine Khrushchev like, man, it's just the dog. Chill the fuck out. Alright, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to see other reactions like this, Salmonella reactions, something, then check out the end cards right now, I guess. And yeah, I have Instagram now if you want to follow me, link in the description. And I'll see you next time.